A very good morning, and an early one at that, and welcome to Japan, Sapporo, hosting the very last round of the cross-country World Cup races. A team sprint today, and then the final pursuit of the season coming up tomorrow. Well, conditions are pretty good. There's lots of wind around, but spectators have come with it. And Mike, we're looking forward to a good race here.
We certainly are, as you say, warm conditions, slight windy, it's slight bit of wind influence, and that's going to, as the race unfolds, that's going to play its part in terms of tactics. But, well, they're ready to kick this one off.
Well, we've got 14 teams entered for the women's team sprint, and we'll go through their semi-finals first, before the men see any action at all. The men all frantically getting their skis prepared. Conditions that I haven't really seen very often over the last couple of months. They've had such good weather down at the Olympic Games and in Scandinavia. This is somewhat difficult, and giving the technicians a test. Away they go then. And well, interesting to see the team choice. Team number 3, Crawford and Renner, the Canadians from Canmore, just outside Calgary. They've had a fantastic season, especially Chandra Crawford, the Olympic champion. And Mike, she likes to go off hard.
She always does. There she is, slotting into second place, but she never seems to be comfortable unless she's trying to do the hard work out the front. And quite soft conditions, though, Patrick, when you're leading out there.
You can see they're just a little tentative, and that is because of the snow conditions. There's a combination of soft snow, but there's still some ice around from last night, and so they need to watch out on the sharper corners. Coming to the front of the field at the moment is the winner of the 30-kilometre in Oslo, Julia Shapovalova, who's also wrapped up the Distance World Cup this season, and I think she deserves it, Mike. She's really fought hard this year. Didn't quite get the success she was hoping for down in Torino, but Shapovalova is a class act, and especially in the freestyle events.
Well, she's taking the lead into the wind at the moment, but it's all about tactics as usual. We see these sprint races. It's about where you place yourself and how much of the track you take up if you're in the lead. And Shapovalova, she's holding her line.
Well, we'll just run down through the teams, because you can see Russia at the front, ahead of Germany. That's Manuela Henkel for Germany. Crawford 3 for Canada. We've also got 2 Japanese teams in this first semi-final. Madoka Natsumi wearing 4, and at the back of the field, Chi Mariyama, who's wearing number 7. And then the other team involved is, of course, Lisa Lassila of Finland, who's teamed up with Pirjo Manninen, and that looks a fairly strong team. But the key here in this first semi-final is to do as little work as possible and get yourself through to the finals.
Indeed, when there's so many races, it's about efficiency. I think the Japanese team, Natsumi and Fukuda, they are going to, it's home ground for them. This is a sharp turn as they really take this tentatively. You've got to be very careful with the soft snow that you don't catch an edge and it brings you down.
Well, you know what I'm thinking, Mike. Today, and that corner could decide who wins this one ultimately, but initially they've got to get through the knockout semi-final. Sarah Renner taking over the duties for Canada and looking very good at the front, but really doesn't want to break away too early, just wants to make sure that she's not left behind. And some of the other teams are very slow. Lena Andersson handing over to Emily Erstig. They're right at the back. I don't think there's any panic at this stage, but slightly surprised that Erstig is in instead of Anna Dahlberg, who's had such a good sprint season.
Yes, Dahlberg. In fact, all of the Swedish team, it's amazing how they have picked up. It's more like self-belief has improved, because they were always good sprinters, but they didn't have the belief they could win these races until this season. And of course, in this very race at the Olympics, the men took the gold medal, the Swedish men, and of course the women did as well.
Well, the 2 of the 3 Crystal Globes decided on the women's tour. Julia Shapovalova, as I mentioned, has pretty much, yeah, she's won the Distance World Cup. She's over 100 points clear of Katarina Neumanova, and only 1 race to go, and that, of course, is the pursuit tomorrow over a total distance of 15 kilometres. Marit Bjørgen, believe it or not, having had the worst season for 4 years, has still won the sprint world standings, pipped her teammate Ella Jomler by just 6 points in the last race of the season by getting a win. If Jomler had finished second, she would have taken it, and if Jomler was third and Bjørgen was second and Scott had won it, she would have won it. So it could have gone any way, the Sprint World Cup. Fantastic last race, and Lena Andersson down in 4th place there, and Andersson taking the first leg for Sweden, so she's preparing for her second run. And finally, the overall World Cup has yet to be decided. We've got Marit Bjørgen 66 points clear of Becky Scott of Canada, and Julia Chapalova is too far back to threaten with only 1 race to go, but that's going to be a good encounter. If Scott can win tomorrow and Bjørgen has another relapse of her loss of form and finishes outside the top 30, then the World Cup will go to the Canadian for the first time ever.
Well, that would be something special, wouldn't it? And of course she's going to be focused on that, but she's having to do the work today as well. It's a very strange course, this, Patrick. From this point on, so from the handover, from the start, we do nothing but climbing, and the only bit of downhill is in that final, well, 100 meters. So you have to place yourself in the top 1-2 positions by the top of the hill that we see in the far background.
I think basically what it does, Mike, is brings the sprint back a couple of 100 meters, because they'll know that if they're not in a good position coming into the last downhill, then they've got pretty much no chance of winning this one. You want to be in third at the very worst coming into that last downhill section. But they've got some way to go. The first leg runners back on course, and they've got 1 more lap to do after this. Chapalova doing the donkey work out front, Crawford tucked in behind her, skiing very nicely indeed, and Team 6, which is Finland, of course, with Rita-Liisa Lasila in 3rd place. The Japanese are still there. Madoko Natsumi in 4th, but there is a 2-3 meter gap between herself and the Finns, and that's something that the Germans are trying to do something about. Manuela Henkel, number 2, moving up into that little slot that Natsumi had left.
Well, Buehler lost a little bit of the initiative there, and Henkel having to pull back.
Chapalova still leading where she's most comfortable, but she's certainly not holding back.
You need very good downhill skills. We've seen the last couple of times the snow ploughing, a lot of tension going into the downhill, which we'll pick up on in, what, about 10 seconds time.
Well, Canadians are pretty handy at alpine skiing. Sarah Renner and Chandra Crawford, great facilities just up the road from them, Lake Louise, and some of the best alpine skiing in the world. So I don't think they're going to have a problem with it. Here's Crawford. She's not going to be involved in the sprint finish, having taken the first leg, but I'm sure that's something that the Canadians have thought about. That's the corner where this race can be won and lost. If you hit that corner hard and you stay on the inside and you get a clean run through to the sprint finish, then I think you've got every chance of breaking away from someone who's in your slipstream. So a little rush to make sure that the next team gets a good start, and away they go. Finland alongside Russia, with Olga Rocheva now on course, and that little flourish of activity has given the lead 3 teams a little bit of a cushion. So a couple of absentees from today's race, Mike. Becky Scott, for one, of Canada, saving herself for a final effort of the season, sensibly. Marit Bjørgen doing likewise. I think that is sensible, and many thinking that she made the wrong move racing so hard after the Olympics. We saw her in terrible form in Torino, went home to her mum outside Trondheim, and then looked fabulous when she raced in the Vasaloppet, but it wasn't long before she dropped off again.
She had to. There's just been so many races. There was Mora, then Borlänge, the sprints in Borlänge, then Falun, Drammen, Oslo, and of course just 2 days ago in Changchun in China for the sprint races, and over to Sapporo. So not only have there been so many races, but the travelling in between, and all of that has happened since the 4th of March. But Chapalova, she didn't race a couple of days ago. I think that was sensible, having flown over from Europe. All the athletes went straight into the race in China, and Chapalova was one of those who didn't.
Slightly surprised that the Russians have switched their team round at the last minute, and that means that it is Shapovalova who's going to take the last leg. Olga Rocheva, I'm not sure whether that's permitted, but they seem to have got away with it. It's definitely Shapovalova on course at the moment. Is it not? With a little bit of athlete recognition. It's certainly got the hair of Shapovalova out the front.
Yeah, very strange.
Anyway, we'll do our best to identify. But on the start sheet, Shapovalova put in front of Olga Rocheva.
Little surprise to the Swedish team there. Not quite able to stay with it. They have the initiative to push forward.
One thing I can tell you, Mike, is number 5-1 is not Julia Shapovalova. So I think this is Shapovalova behind the glasses. Yes, it is. And Olga Rocheva taking over now, running this first leg. So Shapovalova it is who's going to take the final leg in the sprint. And that's probably a sign that she is feeling very strong. And she's worked hard. And the key thing here, Mike, is that team number 7, which is Japan, and team number 4, also from Japan, have been left off the pace with just 2 laps to go.
And as usual, the Canadians are in there. They've just worked so hard on their sprint races. They've done a lot of work on the glaciers back home in Canada, and they have to either get flown into the glaciers or hike up to it, which is more of a social training camp.
Look at that, Olga Rocheva blasting away. She's decided that she wants this one to be won on the penultimate lap, and it's now between Finland, Germany and Canada who are fighting for that second place, unless they can haul Rocheva back. But they're going to have to start turning it up, and I think team 6, which is Riitta-Liisa Lassila of Finland, needs to either move aside and let the Germans through with Manuela Henkel, or they've got to start working and close the gap. Otherwise, Russia are going to have this one before the start of the last loop. It's not the sort of lead that Julia Shapovalova is going to allow to disappear.
Absolutely not. A lot of work, though, Rocheva putting in so much work in there to get that initiative. Maybe a sign that she's wanting clear snow between her and the next athletes on the downhill. She was a little tentative. Now her legs are absolutely blown here. And how is she going to cope with this downhill? It's fast, it's getting slightly icy. The powder snow has been pushed off the top.
Well, Finland hanging on. Lassila making a charge at the top of the hill, and that's given her a bit of a lead over the Germans. So clear difference between first, second and third at the moment. Ooh, Rocheva just finding the ice. Henkel being very, very tentative. But look at the gap that has opened up as a result of that. That is dreadful skiing from Henkel. She had to take the risks at that stage, and she's given Germany's second runner and final runner, Stephanie Böhler, no chance. So it's between Russia and Finland now. It may be a little bit presumptuous to say that, but that is, for me, that's appalling skiing from someone who's been out on the snow all winter.
Well, there's total fear there, but I'll tell you what, that is such a long, long climb. We can see it in the background, the angle of that hill. It goes on forever, and I think Henkel's legs were just completely spent to have put such an aggressive snowplow in. No confidence to hold the speed.
Well, it's much easier to gain time on the downhills than it is on the uphills, and that's something that you've got to work as a team. Many cross-country skiers don't believe that, but you can lose so much time on the downhill, so you might as well put the training in, because it's 30 seconds gained without any extra effort.
And it's actually quite simple, quite easy and fun to train for your downhill skills, just on a gentle slope, putting the slalom poles in and just having fun. You learn so quickly. Timing improves.
Well, this is going to be an interesting one. Maninen versus Shapovalova, and coming up in the background we have Germany, this time with Stephanie Böhler and I was going to say Becky Scott, I mean Sarah Renner of Canada is starting to close down the gap, but they have been left an awful lot to do if they want to challenge for the top spot today. Still, Russia leading with Shapovalova, the winner from the women's Holmenkollen 30-kilometer, proving that she's pretty good over distance, and she's outstanding over the sprint event as well. And Maninen, Mike, needs to get right on her tail. She's got to be on the back of the skis of the Russian going over the apex of the hill, but it doesn't look as though that is going to be what happens.
Well, it'll still be enough to qualify.
Absolutely.
Through to the final, and the Russian team here, Shapalova, at the moment, they've put a lot of work in. I mean, they really are on total maximum, and this may well catch them up later.
So top 3 teams going through certainly, and Russia are going to be safe. Finland are going to be safe. Russia may have worked too hard. The idea, as we mentioned earlier on, is to use as little energy as possible, and Russia have worked hard over the last 2 loops. Manninen looking comfortable for Finland. Becky Scott and Germany involved in Sarah Renner and Germany involved in a sprint finish for that 3rd position, and it looks as though Renner is just going to get that despite the efforts of Stephanie Böhler. Just photo finish for those 2, 4.2 seconds behind.
Surprised there with Urstig not able to turn the pace up and pull that distance back. She just lost more and more as the race went on. See the final win there in the home straight. As this progresses, we're going to see that making a big difference or playing a big part in this race.
It's Julia Shapalova just wondering where to go, how to get out. She's got to get back to the warming hut, get the skis re-prepared. What will they do to the skis in between rounds?
Well, the skis will be, they won't be re-waxing. The technicians are there ready to just rub them down, put some of the top-class fluorocarbon waxes on, and either buff it in with a cork or just brush it in vigorously. And it's enough to last for this short race, this short distance. Only 1,000-meter lap, 1 kilometer, but well, the majority of that uphill, and it's just this last 150, 200 meters that you get all your recovery, all the downhill section. What a pity for the 2 Japanese teams, well, Team 3 and Team 1 for Japan, not going through to the final.
Yeah, a little disappointing that both the 2 Japanese teams were drawn in that. Japanese 1 and Japan 3 in that heat. We have Japan 2 coming up later on. Yokoyama and Nojiri are going to be wearing bib 14 for the second of the semi-finals. We've got Finland 1 in the second semi-final, Saarinen and Kutunen. That's a strong pairing, and will certainly give the Russians Rocheva and Shapalova a run. And Matveva, Sidko go for Russia 2. Don't rule them out. Sidko very good indeed. And Team 6 there, Perju Manninen. Just working our way back behind Julia Shapalova.
They're having to walk an awful long way back to give the skis to the technicians, which seems a little bit badly laid out here, the centre.
A little bit of a walk never did anyone any harm, Mr. Dixon. And Japan 3 out of the competition. That really is very disappointing for the supporters, but they have another team to support in the second semi-final. And so just to confirm that Russia won that first semi ahead of Finland, with Germany and Canada involved in a photo finish. And when we get back from the break, we'll let you know who won that.
Next week on Eurosport 2, 4 teams shoot it out in the first leg of the ULEB Cup semi-finals live. Don't miss a shot. 12 countries take to the ice in a bid to clinch the Women's World Curling Championship live. More power plays and cross-checks, North American style. Check out the National Lacrosse League. ULEB Cup semi-finals first leg, the Women's World Curling Championship and the National Lacrosse League. Next week on Eurosport 2. The countdown starts here to the semi-finals of the ULEB Cup. Aris take on Hemafarm, Dynamo Moscow meet Hapoel. First leg objective, build up a lead and get the edge. It's launch time. ULEB Cup playoffs semi-finals first leg, Tuesday, live on Eurosport 2.
Welcome back to Sapporo, the second of the women's semi-finals coming up in just a moment. Team 9 in shot, Natalie Matveva of Russia. Alongside her, Avi Sakenbacher for Germany. And Avi's not had a bad season. Mike used to be an outstanding sprinter, but has pretty much converted to the distance racing now. But this is the sort of sprint that will suit her. 3 runs. Interesting to see her going first. And I wonder how Claudia Kunzel's going to get on. Kunzel's had a good season in the sprints, finishing down in 8th position in the World Cup standings, but with 2 podium finishes this season. Further along, Ella Jomla of Norway, the team leading the team sprint standings, although they didn't really get a look in the Olympic Games.
Good to see the young Astrid Jakobsen. We don't often see her at the World Cup, and she's putting it together very well. There she is, starting for the Norwegian duo. She came 10th just 2 days ago in China. Changchun. Well, the young Norwegian had a bad start. They're very slow to initiate the double polling.
Well, there you see the wind helping them down that back straight, so there's absolutely no harm in being out the front at this stage of the race. They've got it lucky actually, Mike, because as they work their way up the hill, they're somewhat protected by the hill that they're climbing from the wind, so it couldn't really be kinder. But it is that little bit, the 20-30 meters as you come over the top of the climb before you start descending back down into the stadium. That's the hardest part of the course and the most critical part of the course. That is where the final, if it does turn into a sprint finish between 2 or 3 teams, that's where it's going to be won.
It is. As we progress and get through to the finals, it's going to be much tighter racing, although you don't get much tighter than this.
Well, it's usually an indication that the pace is fairly slow, and that certainly looks to be the way. And maybe they've had a chat with each other and said, look, that first semi-final was very quick. Why bother? Why don't we just take it easy, sort things out on the last 2 laps, and whoever gets through is going to be fresher than those who raced in the first semi. And the slight disadvantage for going in the second semi, Mike, is you have less time to recover. And it's always a big question for the organisers. How long do you need to recover from an exertion like this?
Well, you certainly need before the next... well, the first heat there, they're going to get, what, 40 minutes? This heat will get, well, 25, 20 minutes.
It's a significant difference.
It is. It really is a factor, because your legs are still shaking when you come off the whole heat itself, and by the time you jog a little bit to flush the legs out, try and get some recovery back in, yeah, you'd need at least half an hour till the final.
There are some who prefer actually to go in the second semi-final, because they find that the temptation, if you go in the first one, is just to sit around and not flush the lactate out. If you go in the second, you know you've got to keep moving and just get all the lactate out of the muscles, the legs, and of course the arms in this game, and the abdominals as well.
Look at Yokoyama. That was a great move from the Japanese second team. She really has got great skills there in the downhill.
We have a faller, and I think it's the Norwegians that have gone down. Watch for the red bib, but I'm fairly sure that Norway have crashed down Astrid Jakobsen, going down very heavily indeed, and that has left Ella Jomla with a lot of work to do. And I wonder whether the other teams will sense that and realise that this is the time to make the break for home. I know they've still got 5 kilometres to go, but look at the difference between Norway and the rest of the teams. Jomla has got to pull out the class that she's shown us all season. Remember, she's finished second in the overall, not the overall, but the sprint standings this year, and she got a win earlier in the season in Oberstdorf, winning the classic sprint then.
Well, in my book, the Norwegian team are favourites from this heat, and yeah, you would think there'd be an initiative set here now. Right, we've got a chance to damage the favourites. That fall very expensive, and it looks like Italy are actually taking that on.
I think Italy sense that's absolutely the right thing for them to do, because that gives them a very good chance of getting through. They're ranked 3 or 4 in this particular semi-final. No panic from the Germans, Mike. Kunzel at the back looking relatively comfortable. Ella Yomler is getting closer, but my goodness, is she going to suffer? And remember, she's got to run the last leg as well, so it's her sprint that is going to get Norway through. And we talked about 25 minutes recovery. She's going to get 3 minutes recovery maximum.
Absolutely. Look, she's well, at the back there. Yomler's just grafting, working so hard. It is up into the wind. You can see the wind at the side of the track. So Ariana Follis, who's only recently found a winning form in the sprint races. Of course, she put it together well at the Olympics, but then went on to win in Borlänge, the sprint race. So a confidence boost there.
There's a good shot of the stadium as they come back down in, and it is Italy leading their second leg runner. Ariana Follis handing over to Sabina Valbusa, who will be pretty happy with the way things have panned out, but she's going to have a lonely ski for the first 500 meters at least. What we're waiting to see is whether the Norwegians have managed to get back in touch. Ella Yomler trying to close that gap, having taken a big fall in the first leg with the first Norwegian runner. And of course Astrid Jakobsen. So away go Italy. Sweden are away as well. The Finnish second team looking comfortable in third place, wearing bib number 8. That's Aina-Kaisa Saarinen back on course, and Kunzel away as well. So Mike, the Norwegians still with work to do.
They certainly have. It's was that
was the Swede
Britta Norgren. And she's a fighter, Britta. She really is, for another young up-and-coming star from the Swedish camp. But surprised at Evie Sackenbacher that, well, the German duo, they were on my top 2 along with Norway, but Norway not able to close this gap at this moment. What a difference a fall makes. If you fall, it almost takes you out of the whole race as a team.
Italy slowing down. The problem for Norway now is that Astrid Jakobsen is the weaker of their pairing, and she's the one who's having to do the work. She's having a go at it, Mike, and she's really pushing the tempo, and she has got to do the work, because there's no way that you can ask Yomler to work too hard, and especially on the next loop, because she needs as much recovery as she can get for the final lap if Norway are going to qualify. Japan, who led earlier on, back in last place now, and it looks as though all 3 Japanese teams could go out in the semi-finals here in this team sprint event. Just a reminder of the Olympic results. Sweden, the gold medalists, Sweden getting their first ever, not first ever, but their first Olympic gold for 12 years, I think it was, back in Torino with the women's sprint, shortly followed a couple of minutes later by the men's title. So they went from success to double success in no time. They finished ahead of Canada. The pairing for Canada was Sarah Renner and Becky Scott. A little unlucky, but the Canadians really did excel themselves, taking the individual sprint title for women as well.
Yeah, the Canadians have just focused so much on sprint racing, and then let that build the belief and the confidence for the longer distance races, and it is working.
Well, the Italians are certainly doing something right, and so are the Finns. They've gone away alongside the Swedish team on the 4th of 6 legs now. Britta Norgren back on for Sweden, and she has the lead as they go under the bridge.
Well, this is a race of change. The lead, it was Russia, then Finland, now Sweden.
And Russia dropping off the pace slightly. Mike, Russia wearing bib 9. Now, Britta Norgren looks slow, but the fact that she's managing to hold the skate 2 technique with one double polling action for each leg action, an indication that she's still pushing pretty hard.
There's Russia now just come in, tucked in behind Germany, so that is going to be a a mammoth battle to see who's ahead at the changeover.
This is going to be a very, very competitive last couple of loops, and Ella Jomla once again has got some work to do. Norway have tried to close the gap down, but if Jomla doesn't get onto the back of the group this time, then I don't think Norway are going to find themselves qualifying for the final.
Well, that would be a shocker if the Norwegian team can't pull this back to qualify through for the final. With Jomla taking third place 3 days ago over in Changchun.
Do you think this should be part of the World Cup programme as well, Mike? Do you think they should get maybe 50 points for a win, or do you think it should just go towards Nation Cup points?
Yeah, I think it should just be the Nations Cup, because we're not racing, of course, it's only 2 athletes per team racing here, and I think it would disadvantage the point system. The Norwegians trying so hard. I think they are going to close this gap, but they really have had to work so hard for it.
I'm not sure. They're 60, 70 metres behind the leaders at the moment. There's Ella Jomla, I should say, yes, it is Ella Jomla, just going around that top corner. But as they go down the hill, the distance is magnified, and they're still 50 metres off that group. And Astrid Jacobsen is going to have to go hell for leather on this penultimate lap if she wants to give the Norwegians a chance of getting through. Italy have been fairly comfortable out the front. Sabina Valbusa just handing over to Ariana Follis, handing over to Sabina Valbusa, and they're following the Swedes out on this penultimate lap. And so Greta Norgren will be hoping to stretch her Scandinavian rivals to the limit on this one. And the gap is still fairly significant. Mike, and Sweden have a lead for the first time. The Italians just dropping off the pace. Finland too.
Well, this soft snow is catching everybody out. That fast left-hander before this climb. A number of athletes almost falling backwards. They're waiting a little bit off, not expecting the snow to be so soft. The little icy, as everyone's been snow plowing, creating the faster track. And well, look at this. Jacobsen is working very hard now to close this. They know that they're running out of time, running out of space to pull us back. Very surprised at the Russian team there. And at Matvieva, she started so fast.
Now, Jacobsen has got to go through past the Russians, and that's exactly what she's attempting to do. And with Sweden leading, this is playing into the hands of the Norwegians. Good skiing by Jacobsen. Brita Norgren, surely she's saving something for the top of the hill, leading Italy. Germany in third, Finland in third place at the moment, and here go Italy moving out to the side. Team 13 with Sabina Valbusa. She's certainly got the speed in her to open up the gap at the top and break the field. Finland are watching every move that the Italians make. Aina Kaino-Saarinen not going to let Valbusa get clear, and now Jacobsen is starting to pay for that speed early on this penultimate lap, and once again Norway find themselves 20 metres behind, but so are the Russians. And as you say, Mike, it's surprising to see Natalia Matveva not being able to cope with that pace.
We've seen Matveva in each of the sprint races she's taken part, so aggressive, and she normally likes to lead these sprints. She did for the first one, but I think that's burnt her up. And without the race in China, Matveva, I think it's as you come over and do the big time change from European time over to the Far East time, your first race is always a little bit rusty, a little bit painful, and I think that's where the others have got an advantage.
So only 1.5 seconds separating the leading 4 teams. Norway now 7.7 behind. Russia 8.2 out of the qualifying positions at the moment. Norway have got to catch at least one team if they want to go through, but they've got a long way to gain and a lot of work to do. 4 teams out the front. How do you see this one panning out? We've got Finland leading, Sweden in second, Italy third, Germany, who've recovered well to get back onto the tail of that leading group, and Claudia Kunzel now in 4th place, but looking pretty comfortable as she tries to work her way past Italy.
Well, I've just got a good feeling for the Swedish team. They've looked sharp, they've looked sparky each time. And, well, she's letting Team Finland know that she's right on the tails of her skis, in fact, clipping the tails. That's annoying when you're leading and someone clips your skis more than twice.
Twice is okay.
Twice you think, all right, 2 mistakes, we can accept that, but it's more than that. You're being irritated by the athlete behind.
A little bit of gamesmanship going on, perhaps. Now, Russia starting to come back into it. It's a good charge from Elena Sidko, and those leading four need to be aware that some effort is going in on behind them.
It's a huge effort, as you say, Patrick. Sidko is, well, on her total limit now to close the gap. Not quite sure the rest, the leaders are aware of the attack.
Where it's such a long climb. Claudia Kunzel just moving up. Fourth she was, into third, into second. Now takes the lead for the first time in this second semi-final. Remember, it is all about qualifying. They don't need to worry about finishing first, but they do need to finish in the top four to stand any chance of going through. Kunzel leading the Italian, which is Ariana Follis in second place. Finland not too fussed. Sensible skiing, I think, by Verpi Kutunen in third at the moment, coming down this last hill. They're pretty sure of going through, and Anna-Karin Stromstedt of Sweden has done well, and Russia and Norway being raced out of this second semi-final. That is a big, big surprise.
Germany to victory. Ahead of Italy, Finland, and Sweden got to fifth place. Look at Russia and Norway.
Big sprint coming on between Russia and Norway coming in to finish. Second photo finish of the day. Russia just given it ahead of the Norwegians, and a big effort from Elena Sidko to outski Ellie Jomla on that last leg. Now, Mike, disappointment for Norway, but I think they'll sit back and say, okay, well, at least we get more rest before tomorrow's race, which is a 2x7.5 pursuit, and I would imagine the likes of certainly Ellie Jomla will be involved in that.
Yes, certainly, but I think they'll be desperately disappointed, especially with the form, the sprint form, the short sprint form they've recently shown, and all because of one fall. It's cost them an awful lot. They'll be disappointed not to get through to this final. You don't come all the way over here to the Far East to not make it through to the final if you're Norwegian. And again, sadly for the Japanese, they're the third team, although it's team 2, that's the total of 3 Japanese teams not making it through to the final.
So just over a minute off the pace after 6 kilometers of skiing. 1:14 the margin, 10% or so slower than the best. But the Japanese have put up, good to see them put 3 teams in, and great experience for the younger team members who've not raced in a World Cup before. And we will see a number of national skiers starting in the pursuit events tomorrow, both men and women. And it's a big commitment for the FIS Cross Country Tour to come over to Japan. But the tracks in okay condition. I don't think they compare to the tracks that we saw in Torino, but it's that much harder with the wind and the changing conditions to get perfect tracks. But I think the athletes on the whole will be satisfied with the way things have gone so far.
Indeed, I think the conditions, it's old transformed snow now, which is always very sugary. It's quite difficult to compress it when the snow is like that. But a lot of work has been put together to bring the show here.
Eili Sakenbacher just having a chat with Claudia Kunzel. They've both made it through to the final, and on paper look as strong as any other team out there. Henkel and Buller of Germany, the other German team, making up Germany 2. But as we've already seen this year, Mike, the second team so often beat the first team.
Yeah, it almost takes the pressure away, where your coaches haven't selected you as favourites, and you think, okay, I'm going to prove my coach wrong here. And of course the pressure aspect is a big deal as well.
We've just got a couple of minutes. You can hear the local announcer. Well, he's not local, he's come all the way from Norway, Kjell Erik Christiansen, to cover the races here in the stadium. And he's had a busy year with the tour, racing in America before Christmas, of course the Olympic Games, which took up 2.5 weeks of their season, and then over to China for the sprint events last week, And just in case you missed that event, just to let you know, the top 4 in the women's sprint in Changchun. And it was one Marit Bjørgen on top again, Mike, something she needed to do to win the sprint world title, and she achieved it ahead of Becky Scott and Ella Jomla down in 3rd, with Guro Strom Soli in 4th. So 3 Norwegians in the top 4 of the individual sprint, but they haven't managed to qualify for the final in the team sprint. So slightly bizarre, but it was a somewhat weakened team. But don't take anything away from Jakobsen, just getting some experience into her legs, and I don't think we'll see her fall in a World Cup again.
No, that's absolutely right. So expensive to have the fall. There's the Japanese team, 1:14 behind, and not qualifying.
So just a couple of minutes before the start of the men's semi, we're going to take a break. We'll be back.
Eurosport, #1 in motorsport. Tuning up for another red-hot season of MotoGP, Eurosport is back on track, live from March the 25th.
Italian football turns up the heat in Serie B. In the home straight, the struggle is intense for a top 3 finish. Nothing else will do. Those still in the running will have to dig deep, but the only thing guaranteed is drama, skill and goals. Italian Serie B, Monday, live on Eurosport 2.
Welcome back to Sapporo, Japan. If you've just joined us, a very good morning. The start of the men's team sprint event just underway, and we've already seen the women's semi-finals with 1 or 2 surprises. In the men's event, good turnout with 18 teams entered in all, so 9 going in each semi. And the favourites, Mike, once again, the Scandinavian teams seem to be the king of the sprints this year. Sweden certainly, with Jürgen Brink the #1 in the overall, and the Norwegians are never slow, but as we've seen, they've had problems in the women's. Maybe the same will happen, and that last corner is going to be very, very quick.
It is slightly more here in the men's field. We've got 9 challenging through to make the final, so this is going to change the whole aspect as well. It's tighter racing, and I think more aggressive. We're going to see the pace here in the early stages much faster, much more aggressive, although at the moment, well, Team 2 Italy, sensibly possibly, Frasnelli, taking it very, very carefully indeed.
Slightly different course for the men. They're racing over 1.2 kilometres as opposed to 1 kilometre for the women, and you will have picked up on that sharper corner at the end of the opening straight. Just settling into a very easy pace now, and no one's willing to push this. Frasnelli of Italy has the lead ahead of Norway, with Johan Kolstad in the black suit and the red bib as the Team Sprint World Cup leaders, and Team 8, that's Shohei Honda of Japan, making an early showing. French, good to see them making the journey over to Japan, but all the teams have had a come, Mike. If it was only a team sprint event, I think a number of the athletes would have decided that their season was over. But the very fact that there's a pursuit still to come, there's plenty of prize money up for grabs, and of course the World Cup points, and the men's World Cup overall, although Toby Angara has taken the title because he's over 100 points clear with only 1 race remaining, there is a lot of fighting going on for the minor places.
Absolutely. I'm a little surprised to see Vito here for France in today's race. I thought he might be saving something for tomorrow, but and he seemed to be suffering up the hill there, although this race is still has a long way to run, and possibly saving his energy there. Vito just handing over.
So Italy with the lead. Christian Zorzi now on course, and he'll enjoy the fact that he's got a bit of a margin between himself and the other top teams. He won't be too worried about Tomio Kanemaru of Japan, who's in second place at the moment. Sweden making a bid now. Jürgen Brink took the first leg, handing over to Michael Osterberg, and that to me looks a very strong team indeed. But on World Cup points, as far as the sprints are concerned, it is Norway with Kolstad and Roning who are the strongest team there, but they're already 30-40 metres off the pace of the leaders.
Look at Zorzi, he's looking back, I think he's surprised that nobody's in behind him, but there the initiative has been taken. You don't want a team to go too far ahead at this point.
Sweden's Michael Osterberg having to work hard to close that gap, and he is doing the donkey work as they head into a very stiff breeze here in Sapporo, and Norway have got onto the back of that train, so they're okay. Team 8, the Japanese, Honda and Kanemaru, working well on the outside, but I just wonder how long they can keep this going. This is really an area that the Japanese can excel, Mike, and it's something that maybe they need to concentrate on in the early stages of development.
Yeah, I do believe that. Once you get, and we've seen that with a number of teams and a number of athletes, when you get the confidence of sprinting well, it's only 1.2 kilometers, but if you can hold and match the best, the belief really runs deep. And I think that's where our British development has to. We have races in Scotland actually tomorrow, and I think that is what the British and Scottish development want to do, and many of the smaller nations in these sports are looking at that very aspect. Canada have done it. They've come through mainly through their sprinting power and given the self-belief and confidence to match the best in the world.
So down into the finish for the second time, that sharp left-hand turn as they go into the changeover box, and it is still Italy leading. Zorzi hands back to Frasnelli, who has to do it all again for a second time, and he knows he's still got one more loop to do, but Italy have managed to maintain that 20-metre gap over Sweden. Team number 8, Japan, just dropping off the pace a little bit, and the Norwegians are back into the top 4, followed by Poland, who are wearing bib number 4 with Kresma back on course. Janis Kreselok just handing over to Kresma.
Well, when Zorzi came along to hand over to Frasnelli, you've just got to make body contact. Well, he nearly missed that, just getting Frasnelli's hand.
That's a good sharp corner that could see some action on the very last loop of the final. Team 7 is Ebisawa. That's the second Japanese team. They've got 4 teams entered, in fact, Japan. And the Canadians with Devon Kershaw, who put in such a fantastic run in the Olympic relay, and George Gray in there as well. The Canadians are a team on the move. They're moving in the right direction. We've seen it in the women's. The women's team are just slightly ahead of the development of the men's, but on the other hand, you could argue that the competition in the men's is that much tougher, so the men have further to go.
It is indeed, but Kershaw, he has the belief. Remember, Borlanga, he did take third in the sprint races there, and he matched the best, and it was so close to taking victory there. But he really has turned this around. This has really kicked off now into a dynamic, fast, aggressive pace. There's Angra, the overall World Cup leader, Team 5 in the background on the left.
Overall World Cup winner. So Germany have won it for the 3rd year in succession with 3 different men, which is slightly unusual. We've had Sommerfeld, we've had Teichmann, and now we've got Angra. Will it be Philbrick next year? What sort of money would you put on that?
Do you know, I was just thinking about that, lads. We're looking at the race start order. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if that were the case, but this year Teichmann, he won it last year. He's way down in 23rd, and the same happened with Sommerfeld. He won it one year, then he was way back down the ranking the following year.
Now, how do you play to that? Is that we'll just keep an eye on the order as they go through. Norway, Japan, France in 4, 5 and 6. Germany 1, down in 7th at the moment, and a lot of work to do for Germany's top team. Axel Teichmann, two overall World Cup winners racing together, but neither of them are renowned as sprinters, so it's not really surprising to see them so far down. And Teichmann, of course, has been off the race scene for a while. So Canada leading the way out for the 4th lap of 6. and they're ahead of Italy with Norway in third. Poland still up there in the top 6 teams, and the French have started to make a move. Now, getting back to that point, as we watch George Gray blast his way up the hill, Mike, how do you explain the fact that firstly the German World Cup winners haven't managed to maintain their form, and what can they do to prevent that sudden drop-off?
It's a tough one, isn't it? And as it's always in any sport, it's reckoned to be relatively easy getting to the top, but so much harder staying there. But I mean, in this sport, yes, you've got your cross-country skiing, your techniques. I think it is more a mental than a physical. You put so much into a season to maintain your points all the way through that it's difficult the following year to put such enthusiasm and drive back into the next season.
I agree. That was Bill Koch who said that initially, wasn't it? Very easy to get to the top, not so easy to stay there. But that was in an era when everything was changing very quickly. The techniques, the skis, from classic to skating. And he was just, he was a smart cookie. He was one step ahead of the rest, which is what I think he meant about it's easy to get to the top. I would argue nowadays, I don't think it's easy to get to the top at all. And you need to be, one, very talented, and two, have all the opportunities and the facilities available to you.
100%. You need a huge backup team. I did say relatively easy. With the German team, the momentum the German team have got, though, only the last 4 or 5 years have they been in the top rankings, and they've just shot through to the top for 3 consecutive years.
Well, have a look at this. Japan leading down into the stadium, and this is the 4th loop, so they've done exceptionally well. That was Honda and Kanemaru. It's Kanemaru coming down now to hand back to Honda for the penultimate lap, and Norway going through in the top positions. Look how tight it is. 3.7 seconds separating the top 9 teams.
Broken pole, broken stick there. I think it was the Japanese team. That would be a disaster.
Well, that I think you're absolutely right, because they've disappeared. They came in first, and they're going out to it. Surely they're not at the back of the field after that. It's Team 7 at the back, is one of the Japanese teams, but it was Team 8. I don't think it is. It may well be the French, Mike. It may well be the French who found themselves at the back. And though there's France going through, we're still...
No, I think it's the Japanese team, and he still hasn't been given a spare pole.
Yes, you're dead right. It is team number 8 with a suit that looks like the French. I'm going to make excuses for myself as Italy lead up the hill for the penultimate time, with Norway in 2nd place at the moment. They've played a pretty sensible race in this one so far. Germany with Toby Agra in 3rd. He always looks so tight in the shoulders, wearing bib number 5. And the French starting to make a move. It's Vincent Vito moving up on the outside, wants to give Rousselet an opportunity to break clear.
I think Vito was disappointed with his performances at the Olympics. He wanted a medal. He stated that many years ago, I am going to win a gold medal. And it just wasn't to be.
Yeah, he was unlucky, just didn't quite hit the form, or more to the point, the rest of the world hit form, especially the Italians. The Germans really didn't excel themselves either, Mike. I know they got medals, but they were expecting a whole bag of golds, and it didn't come their way. Norwegians missed out as well, and largely because Sweden and Italy got their peaking absolutely perfect.
Oh, look at Vito now at the front there, front left, team 9, and he really is killing the rest of the field.
Well, this is the sort of training he does up in the French Alps, goes to altitude and does a lot of steep uphill intervals, so that will be nothing new to him, and he'll be able to produce that again and again if he gets through, and I'm fairly sure he will. Coming down, a hand over to Alexander Rousselet now, who is ready to go on the final lap of this men's first semi-final, and the action fairly quick so far, just about 12 minutes on the clock, with 5 or 6 kilometers completed, so they're skiing at 30 kilometers an hour.
What a pity for the Japanese team. He hasn't been able to pull that back. Honda worked so hard, and from first back down into 7th place.
No, I'm afraid they're too far off the back, and that was a careless mistake. These poles immensely strong when you put your weight down through them in a sort of longitudinal manner, but if you just clip someone else's ski or someone else's pole, one of them will break. Very brittle indeed, and the whole idea is to make them as light and as skinny as possible.
This could be an advantage for the Japanese team. The pace has just slowed down at the front a little, which is surprising.
Well, Rousselet's in control. He's the man who can decide when to turn it up, unless, of course, the Italians decide to come through. And right on cue, Christian Zorzi says, I've had enough of this sort of speed. Let's wind it up. I don't want everyone else being in on a sprint finish. And Zorzi finds that so easy, Mike. It's such a well-balanced skate, too, that he's got.
Powerful. He dropped. Look at his upper on the right there, dropping his upper body weight. And it's a long glide, covers an awful lot of ground. Teichmann as well. It's always that upright position on the left of screen, Team 5.
Have a look at the feet of Zorzi. Here he is, number 2, and he's just dancing his way up. Just watch the feet. You can see him rising up onto the toes just before he pushes out for that final explosion with the legs, getting great use out of the leg muscles, and not just the thighs, it's the calves, the feet muscles that are working, and he combines that very well with the upper body work as well, and he's done some damage to this field. It's Italy leading from Germany, Norway in 3rd, France down in 4th at the moment, and Sweden struggling back in 5th position.
Very surprised Sweden are back there. They've tried to counteract and close the gap, but well, Usberg's got no power left.
So down to the final straight now. The Italians are certainly going to go through without any problem at all. Zorzi, I think, not only winning this one, but getting a moral victory over the rest of the field. Germany in 2nd place with the 2 World Cup winners in the team. Norway 3, France 4, Canada in a photo finish with Poland for that 5th position. And Sweden 2 raced out of it. We will not see them again. And Japan 2 and 3 both suffering the same fate. That really is a shame, because team number 8, Japan 3, had a very, very good chance of getting through, and they played their cards absolutely right with 2 laps to go, but then they had that broken pole, and that has put them out of contention. What about Kohlstaff and Roning, Mike? Just business as usual for them?
I think they conserved their energy the most. They didn't take the initiative. A little bit dangerous playing 3rd, 4th, 5th in tight racing like this, but they didn't take anything on, and I think we'll see them taking it on in the final. But Zorzi, he put a fantastic final 1.2 kilometers in. It was a little slow, he was being held back, and once he made that move, there was no stopping him.
Team number 6, Canada. And that means Kershaw Gray goes to the final.
Well, just hearing over the headphones that Canada have been taken through, qualifying in 5th position ahead of the pole. So a good sprint finish from George Gray, coming in just ahead of Yannis Kreslok, means that the Canadians are going to be back in action.
Touring Car Championship, starting April the 1st, live on Eurosport and Eurosport 2. The hunt is on. Where the view is glistening white, where the sport takes place on sparkling snow and ice, where sliding and gliding are a way of life. Welcome to the Eurosport Winter Park, which takes in every winter sport and every competition all over the globe. The Winter Park, all season long, live on Eurosport.
USA, Andrew Johnson, Andrew Newell. 16 Germany, 2
Welcome back to Sapporo, just the second men's semi-final to come before we go to the climax of the day, and some class teams in this lineup, with Jon Christian Dahl and Trond Iversen going for Norway 2. We'll go through them as we see them on the screen. That's Toby Fredriksson teamed up with Peter Larsen. What a strong pairing we've got there. Both World Cup winners. Toby Fredriksson, of course, former world champion over the sprint event. The Germans with Göring and Andy Schluter. Andy Schluter taking the all-important second leg. Franz Göring, Mike, they're both ranked about the same as far as their sprinting goes.
Yeah, very promising young athlete, Göring, but he's able to mix it with the best.
And the Russians with Ivan Alipov and Vasily Rochev, the world sprint champion from Oberstdorf last year. But of course that was in the classic style, not the freestyle skating that we're going to see today.
I think the American pairing there with Andrew Johnson and Andrew Newell, they've got a good chance of going through to the final.
Well, it's just coming up to 3 o'clock in the afternoon local time. We're 9 hours ahead of the UK, and so an early start for those of you watching in the UK. In fact, an incredibly early start. And if you've made it, congratulations. If you're watching it on the replay, I think you probably made the right decision. Now, Mike, we've seen one faller, we've seen some broken equipment. What would your tactics be if you had a team as strong as Toby Fredriksson and Peter Larsson, for example, the Swedish team? Would you just try and stay out of trouble? Would you go out early? Would you go fast to make sure that you didn't take any risks about qualifying? How would you play it?
I think when your favourites, and the Swedish team here are, I think you need to be in the top 3 at all times, because when the Japanese team fell there, and even though they were in the lead position at that point, they weren't strong enough to pull that mistake back. There was a fall and they broke their pole. So you've got to be able to cover anything, any negatives that happen. You've got to be able to pull them back very quickly.
Well, there's Toby Fredriksson starting to thin on the top of his head, a sign that he's been on the World Cup for a few years. Great guy, and I wonder how he'll get on today. He takes the first leg. Alongside him, Ivan Alipov of Russia, Norway with 10. You can see the Swedish suit. We're back in the World Cup racing suits, which makes recognition that much easier. And we've got the Estonians, Team 13. They wear light blue, pretty much the same as the Finns. There's Team 13, Prit Narusk and his partner Antti Saarapuu. Team 12, Ivan Alipov of Russia. Those 4 on the front ranking. And away they go.
They were held for an age there. There was twitching, there were nerves, and you really can't hold that tension too long.
Norway very quickly into a nice smooth action, and I think Jon Christian Dahl doing exactly the right thing. He got the best of the ranking, with their team having the least World Cup points, and ironically the less World Cup points you have, the better you are, and so that's why they've been ranked 1 in this second semi-final. Toby Fredriksson and Peter Larsson of Sweden getting a good start. They've gone out in second place, and just behind them the Russians and the Germans vying for third at the moment.
I'm a little surprised the Swedish team have put their athletes in this order, because Toby Fredriksson there in second place. He is the World Cup winner from just 3 days ago in Changchun, and he was 30th in the early morning trial, and managed to pull his way through to 1. He's a great tactician. The Swedish team, once they get to the front, they seem to hold the respect of the rest of the field. They will only do what's being dictated to them, and Toby likes to go up front, hold the pace back. He's very relaxed at the moment, but they all know that that is going to change.
Well, just to update you on the World Cup situation, remember this is the last weekend of cross-country racing for the season on the World Cup. Most of these guys will go and race in national races and local races. They can make themselves a bit of money in the last month of the year, so they'll keep going right the way through until the middle of April, certainly. And they may take part in some of the tour races, as we see team number 18, that's the Japanese, once again having problems. Kaishin Yoshida just finding his skis obstructed, but the pace not so fast that he can't settle down, but his pulse rate will have gone through the roof for a few seconds, and there is going to be payback time for that later on. But he can thank Toby Fredriksson that the pace is so slow at the front, and no one really interested at this stage. Pritnerux just cruising along in second place. The French not wanting to get out of that top 3, which is what you suggested, Mike, and Germany alongside France at the moment. One one team we haven't mentioned is the Americans. Andrew Johnson and Andrew Newell. They're a class act, and we could see something surprising from them.
Yeah, I think so. They're very hungry for success here. And of course, Andrew Newell coming third a couple of days ago.
Tell you what, Mike, the final with 10 teams, all of whom are going to be slightly closer matched than this lot, is going to be frantic, especially that first left-hand corner. I think I'll put a little bit of money on the fact that we'll have a faller on the very first corner of the final, and that we'll have one at some stage on the downhill as well, or we'll see something. There's going to be some drama, without a doubt. Here it is, the sharp left-hander, Alipov, teammate leading his way in. That's Vasily Rochev, the world sprint champion, leading Sweden, with Peter Larson looking pretty comfortable. What about the Americans?
Yeah, Americans, as you said, it's looking good for them. They are a strong pairing, comfortably in third at the moment. But it really hasn't kicked off yet. It hasn't. The pace hasn't started to test anybody. The two Japanese teams still, well, having pulled back. There was a gap at the changeover, but they managed to close that down now. But sadly, in the last two places,
America have got Andrew Newell on course at the moment, and looking down the rankings, Mike, he has got the best American ranking in a World Cup at the end of the season since Bill Cock, with 8th place in the Sprint World Cup standings. He had a 3rd, as you mentioned, last week in Changchun, and he got a 4th earlier in the season in Oberstdorf on the World Championship tracks. So he's had a fabulous season, and I think we may see him coming through next year. He's learnt a lot about the sprinting this year. He knows exactly what to do training-wise now, and maybe a little bit more strength work. And I think next season we could see him in the top 3 or 4.
Do you know, it's absolutely, there he is. He's making a move on the right side, now on the left side of screen. But yes, he has created a belief in himself as well, that he can. He's not intimidated being in this company. And a lot of this tight pack racing, it's about tactics and forcing your race line, not giving in, but having the intelligence to take the best possible way through the pack.
Just wondering why the Swedes put Toby Larson with Toby Fredriksson with Peter Larson, and didn't team him up with Jürgen Brink, who goes in the other one. We've got Bjorn Lind not racing today. That would have been the obvious pairing, and of course those two are the Olympic champions. As they come through, you can see the top teams. And a little bit of a break. Looks like the German suit that has got clear. We'll confirm that in just a moment. The Estonians up there as well. Germany wearing 16, and there they are with Franz Göring back on course. Just puts in a little snowplow as he comes around the corner, and he's not going to waste this opportunity. He's decided that it's worth having a crack at this, but he's got to be careful, Mike. He's got to do it all over again. I'm not sure Göring is doing the right thing here. He may well be showing his lack of confidence in the fact that he's trying to make a long run for home.
Or maybe his lack of experience as well, possibly, but he obviously believes in himself. But you just get the feeling the field are going to close this down very quickly. Fritna Rusk taking it on. He's just deciding, no, we're not having this at this stage in the race.
Remember, the top 5 going through, and if you're fairly confident that you can achieve that, then your best bet is just to stay in the pack, like Toby Fredriksson is doing at the moment. Number 17 is the French second team, Jean-Marc Gaillard, along with Emmanuel Journier. We haven't mentioned them, and they're pretty handy when they turn it up. Emmanuel Journier having a much better season than he's ever had before, and he takes the last leg, the all-important second leg on this team relay.
Franz Göring at the front there, he really puts his hands a long way forward. It's unusual when we compare it to Toby Fredriksson, who's, when he plants his poles, as we see Freddie there in Matti. I'm getting confused here, actually. It's he has his hands much closer to his shoulders.
Toby Fredriksson.
That's, that is it.
Just thought I'd let you suffer. Right, down the hill, and no casualties so far. Germany still leading the way as Germany's second runner, Andreas Schluter, gets ready for his second kilometre, 1.2 kilometre run, and then they'll only have 2.4 to go total, with 1 lap each to go. Germany coming out in first place. France 2 are up in the top 3 as well, pushed by, looks like, the Estonians, who've gone into second place, and they've got Naruskan Sarapuu on the course. What we can do is pick out the teams that have dropped off the back. Japan 4, that is, at the very back, so they're going to struggle to qualify from this stage. No mistakes so far from the Swedes. Toby Fredriksson and Peter Larsen just taking it steady. I think they're conserving their energies. They're stuck in 4th at the moment, which is good enough to qualify, but with the Americans there behind them, and Team 10, which is the top seeds from this race, Dahl and Iversen from Norway, I think they still have to be a little bit wary, because this is going to be a frantic last couple of laps.
Well, Iversen is down there in 7th place at this time, and being the tallest man in the field. What is he, 1m94? He's got a long reach, and quite often we've seen Iversen not suffer, but make some mistakes trying to get through. There he is, Team 10, 3rd from the back. What I have noticed, though, is on the changeover, the last 3 times the German team have got their drills, their teamwork there down to a T, and that's why they're gaining about 5 to 10 meters on the changeover, because Schluter was already moving.
Here goes a move, Mike, and it's Team 17, which is France, with Emmanuel Journier just pushing it up.
Well, he certainly is. Look at that tempo, a dynamic change of speed there.
Well, I wonder if that's something he discussed with Jean-Marc Gaillard, and I hope that his teammate is ready to take over, because it looks as though he may well earn himself 20-meter lead. Germany just taking it easy. They're not going to panic at this stage. They'll say, well, we may not beat France, but we can certainly finish in the top 4 of the remaining teams. Very interesting to see how the rest have let them go, and this is possibly a very good move from Emmanuel Journier round the last corner, and look at that gap, 40 meters clear of the rest. Now Jean-Marc Gaillard has no choice but to go for it, and that surely is going to be their best hope of qualifying. So away go France with that little lead, 5.3 seconds clear of Estonia, 6 seconds clear of the United States, and Norway 6.3 behind now, and the Norwegians down in 7th place have some work to do, but I would suggest that they're still up to the task.
Well, I reckon they are, but that was an amazing move from Journier, and what, 3/4 of the way up the long climb, but I think he'll next time round he's going to suffer for that very break. When you put energy like that out, it really does overload your muscles.
I agree, but he may well have, if his teammate Gaillard can keep that sort of pace going, then we may well find that he hasn't got to do too much. But it does look as though Germany are starting to claw the gap back, and Gaillard, despite the fact that he's pushing very, very hard, is being caught by the rest. He's still got 25 meters or so, but it is Germany leading the charge. Estonia in there, Sweden in 4, Norway have moved from 7th up into 5th. This is going to be a tight last lap. There's just over 1.6 kilometers to go. These men have another 500 meters before they hand the baton back over to their partner. Team 10 at the back is Norway, and the Swedes haven't done anything wrong to this stage. They've been in 3rd or 4th all the way. Toby Fredriksson and Peter Larsen playing their cards absolutely right so far.
Fredriksson is, for me, he's the most intelligent sprinter, conserving energy and only making the moves, and he reads the race so brilliantly well. And as we saw in Borlänge when he came through to take the victory there.
Here comes a move from the Russians on the outside, and it's Ivan Alipov who's just moving up into a safe position. Got himself into second now for Russia, so France leading, Russia second, Sweden still in 3rd position. Germany have dropped down the order a little bit as they come down to the final exchange. One more lap to go, 1,200 meters still to ski in this second semi-final, and the top 5 5 going through to the final when they have to do it all over again. France, Russia, Norway down in 6th, 3.9 behind. Things have closed up since the last exchange, and Sweden still in 3rd. Peter Larsen now just stepping it up. He's so good at changing the pace, Mike, putting in a little burst, and I love watching him. He's like Bjorn Lind, just drops the hips down 3 or 4 inches and gets more work out of the legs, but the technique essentially stays exactly the same.
You're right, but what that allows is the most incredible turn of speed, change of speed is dramatic from, as you say, from Peter Larsen. Now this is where it's going to be red hot heading up this hill.
So Russia now leading. France have been pushed from 1st down into 2nd place, and absolutely guess what's happening to the French. Emmanuel Journier is paying back for that sprint that he put in on the last lap. He's gone from 1st to 2nd, now in 3rd, and he's got the Norwegians behind him, and Team 13, which is the Estonians, and Team 16, the German 2nd team, are there as well. The Americans have got some work to do, still stuck out of the qualifying positions at the moment, and great to see Japan with Yuichi Honda still on the tail of the leading group. So this one could go anyway, but as we discussed earlier, you have to be in the leading 3 teams going over the top of the hill to be absolutely sure of qualifying, because there is no space once you're down the hill to overtake in that last 60-70 meters into the finish line. And here come the Americans, Mike.
Absolutely, there's the final charge. In fact, he just got out there in front of Honda, cutting him off almost.
Newell's run out of space. He's run out of space, and I think that may be the end of the Americans' chances. Russia leading into the downhill ahead of Sweden. France are still in a qualifying place. Norway in 4. The Estonians in 5 at the moment. Germany in 6th now of qualifying. So are the Americans in 7th. This is going to be tight. No one's going to catch Russia as they come into the home finish. It's just an easy glide into the finish straight. There's going to be some sprinting behind. Russia are safe, so are Sweden. France are going to go through. Norway in 4th at the moment. They're going to go through as well, and the Estonians, I think, have gone through with them. So Estonia get 5th, Germany run out of it, Japan run out of it, United States go out. Andrew Newell just didn't have it quite right. Tactics once again letting him down.
Well, that was quite amazing. Very surprised the German duo haven't made it through to the final. But, well, the Russians, they played their cards right. Didn't take any of the early pacing on, but came through there in the last couple of legs.
Team 18. Masaya Kiruma.
Only 2.5 seconds behind the winners, but outside the final, this was a very tight one.
So there you hear 2.5 seconds separating the top 6 teams, and Germany are the first team to miss out on qualification for the finals. So we won't see Franz Göring and Andreas Schlüter again, but they did have a team in the first of the semis, Toby Angra and Axel Teichmann, and they looked fairly comfortable in qualifying. So here we see the results. Russia, Sweden, France and Norway, the qualifying teams. Germany raced out of it, Japan also. So disappointment for them, but an interesting race, plenty of tactics, and they've got now maybe 10-15 minutes just to prepare themselves for the final. The women's final is going to be coming up in just over 3-4 minutes time. We're going to take a quick break here on Eurosport. We'll be back with the women's final, so do stay with us.
Next week on Eurosport 2, 4 teams shoot it out in the first leg of the ULED Cup semi-finals live. Don't miss a shot. 12 countries take to the ice in a bid to clinch the Women's World Curling Championship live. More power plays and cross-checks, North American style. Check out the National Lacrosse League. ULED Cup semi-finals first leg, the Women's World Curling Championship and the National Lacrosse League. Next week on Eurosport 2.
Welcome Welcome back to Japan. Sapporo hosting the last round of the cross-country World Cups. The traditional visit to Oslo and the Holmenkollen Stadium has already taken place. They've had their 50 and their 30 races, and it's a team sprint plus a pursuit to wrap up the season and decide all the trophies. Most of them have been decided. The men's overall has gone to Toby Angerer. The women's overall yet to be confirmed, so we have to wait till tomorrow to see whether Marit Bjørgen can win it for the second year in succession. And if she does win it, Mike, on the back of the worst season that we can remember that she's ever had, it really is a measure of her greatness.
It really is. As you say, the Olympics for her were a disaster. She did take a silver medal, but the predictions before going in there, we had expected she'd get, what, 4, maybe even 5 medals. And the sad scene for me was when she even went home early before the 30 kilometre. She had nothing to give there, had no self-belief, the form had dropped way off, so she has done well to come through and take well, potentially, and it's all down to tomorrow, take the overall win.
Yeah, she's got 986 points. She's 66 points clear of Becky Scott of Canada, is the only other woman who could win it this year. And both of those two have missed a huge number of races. I think there's a lesson to be learned there, that to race every race really isn't the best way to win the title. You've got to pick and choose. Don't overexert yourself at any stage. But I think the other lesson is decide what your aims are for the season. For Becky Scott, it was Olympic gold. For Marit Bjørgen, it was Olympic success as well, but she's now turned that into a chase for the overall title. Here are the teams for the women's final. Avi Sackenbacher in there for Germany. Team number 10. 45 seconds to go before the start. Remember, 6 times 1 kilometre, 2 in a team, so they go 3 times each. Team 6, Finland with Lasilla and Madinen. Team 13, the Italians, Valbusa and Follis, with Valbusa going on the first leg. And I'm not so sure that Valbusa wouldn't be better on the second leg, but they know better than us. Team 5 is the Russians with Shapalova and Rocheva. But is it going to be Shapalova or Rocheva who goes first this time? And Team 9 are in there as well. That's another Russian team with Matveva, the youngster who's been outstanding this season, and Elena Sidko. And the big news from the qualifying rounds was that the Norwegians with Astrid Jakobsen and Ella Jomla had so many problems, Mike.
That was a big surprise, total surprise. And well, we've mentioned earlier tactics and taking the correct race line. Oh, there's a fall. That's a bad fall. Now the little wooden course markers at the side, she put her ski through that triangle, and that was painful. I just hope our skis are okay.
Hope the skis are okay. Hope she's okay.
She's fine. She's back up.
Yeah, the thing is, has she lost too much ground? That's exactly what happened to Norway in the semi-finals. Although they didn't trip over a bollard, they took a fall on the downhill section and never got back into the race. But Russia and Sweden involved. It looked like, I think it looks like Team 9. Matveva was involved in that. And Sweden with Britta Norgren as well. That's Team 12 at the back. So those we've cleared that one up. Italy leading the way with Sabina Valbusa controlling the pace, perhaps the oldest woman in this particular leg. Hildegunn Pedersen not racing today for Norway. The Canadians, Team 3, what about their chances? Crawford and Renner, the Olympic sprint champion, and Sarah Renner, who's had a fabulous season as well.
Yeah, I think their chances are very good here today, certainly for a podium. Of course, the 10 best teams now in here. This is the real action, the real race, the final. And the Canadians, there we are, in third. And that's a good, comfortable position to be in. The pace hasn't completely picked up to its highest point yet, but it will. Oh, another error there when your ski becomes overrun by another athlete. You spin round, you nearly fall.
Well, I'll tell you what, if we're having problems on the women's final with 10 competitors, it's going to be a little more fearsome in the men's event because they're going to be so tightly packed on this first loop, and I think they'll all get carried away with the situation. Once again, you see the splitting effect of a steep downhill and how easy it is to get clear at that stage. The two German teams ready to go, Germany 1 and 2, and Henkel and Böhler in Germany 2, Sackenbacher and Kunzel in Germany 1, and they're both up in the top 5 positions. Sweden 1 and 2, 8 and 9 at the moment, off the pace and 30 metres or so behind that leading group, and it looks like Canada who have taken the lead again. It is, with Chandra Crawford handing over to Sarah Renner. Long way to go yet, too early to be out the front unless you're going to ski slowly, unless you want to slow the pace down, but it certainly isn't the time of the race to go hard. And Renner looks to be skiing well within herself at the moment.
Very comfortable.
Oh, big fall. Now, you saw the effect. The Italian, number 13, Arianna Follis, just that right-hand ski was skied over. Surely we'll get a replay of that. It was almost comical, but you see how easy it is to go down. Once someone is stepping on your ski, you have no chance of recovery because the ski stops dead. She just pirouetted on the right ski and found herself going from second out the back of the field. And she's now working hard to get back into that group that is chasing Canada, and maybe Sarah Renner recognising that that was an opportunity to break away from the Italians, and give the Italian Follis credit because she's got herself back up into 6th place already, but there will be payback time for that.
There certainly will, and well, that was after only 3 minutes 20 seconds of racing and 3 major incidents, 3 falls. And if this were further on in the race, that would have been decisive. But they've having to work so hard now to pull those mistakes back.
Well, I'm looking forward to the last lap. Not sure I'm looking forward to commentating on it. Could be absolute chaos as they come around the corner, that sharp corner at the bottom of the hill for the last time. But this is the second loop. Both of the team members have now done one, so they've got 2 each to do. Just over 4 kilometres to complete. Canada leading into the finish. Finland are there. Both German teams are up in the top 6. Watch the caption down the left-hand side of your screen to pick out your favourites.
This surprises me, the changeover. You've got 50 metres from the 2 red lines. That's the handover zone. I'm amazed that there's not more double polling. That Team Canada had it sus there. Double polling to pick up speed so that energy from the changeover athletes is carried through into the next.
Absolutely. Are you allowed to push?
You're not allowed to push, you're only got to touch.
Don't you think that would be good, like the short track speed skating, if they introduced that? One ski on the outside, either side of the athlete you're handing over to, and a good pelt up the back, just to get them going.
I think we've definitely seen that in the past in both biathlon and cross country, but the decisions are that you can, if an athlete falls, you're breaking ski poles and doing damage, so it's just a body touch that is the changeover.
Now, Chandra Crawford out the front, but just controlling it. No pressure from the Finnish A team, with Aina Kaiser-Saarinen quite happy to stick in second place at the moment. But further down the field, there are some moves coming in, and it's Finland's second team with Lasilla, who's moving up the order, taking the opportunity to get back in control. And going with Lasilla is the Russians, Team 5. That's Julia Chapalova's team, but it is in fact Olga Rocheva taking the what is the first leg. They've swapped round, so if you've printed a start sheet off the FIS website, then just swap those 2 round, because Rocheva deciding that she was better on the first leg and leaving the hard work on at the end of the race to Julia Chapalova.
Well, Busa there putting a real turn of speed in towards the top of the hill, realising that she can't allow any gaps to develop. Look at Team 6, absolutely flying up there.
Scylla, I think perhaps pushing too hard. She's certainly up the pace, and Chandra Crawford hasn't really gone with it. Evi Sackenbacher of Germany doesn't want to let them get away at all. So the Germans very, very determined to stay with the leaders. In 3rd place at the moment, the second Finnish team, then Italy, then Germany, then Sweden, and behind them Canada now, who were in control at the start of this 3rd leg. The halfway marker reached now, 3 laps to go. Here goes goes Claudia Kunzel, taking over from Avi Sackenbacher. That on paper is the strongest team here, but they've got some competition from the likes of Saarinen and Kutunen. Out they go. Canada down in 7th, Russia 2 in 8th, Germany 2 in 9th, and Sweden 1, having a disaster down in 10th position. Lena Andersson and Emily Erstig have got to accelerate from here.
Well, Kunzel has, it was a good changeover from the German duo, but I'm not sure that Kunzel's going to keep this attack going all the way up. It's slowed down again, so she's not wanting the initiative to try and break at this point. But there will be others who will maybe try and make the decision very soon to go absolutely ballistic.
We were talking about the arm action earlier, Mike, and something that you notice this year is that everyone's elbows much more out to the side. There used to be a theory that you had to keep your elbows down by your side with the old classic style to get the longest drive. But if you want to recover the sticks quickly, you have to lift the elbows up and bring the arms almost under the armpit to whip the sticks back forward again. And in sprinting, that's really, sprinting is responsible for all these technical changes.
It is, and yes, such a wide elbow action, and it is fairly effortless. When your arms are wide, you're just dropping your body weight down through the poles, and well, you're not using any major muscle group there, or any small muscle group. It's all big muscle groups.
Team 13, the Italians, once again making a charge. It's Ariana Follis carrying on the good work made by Sabina Valbusa in the earlier rounds. Claudia Kunzel looking very composed in second place, wearing number 10. The German beautifully balanced on the ski, but skiing efficiently, and that's one of the secrets at the moment. Compare her to the woman in third place. Pick the bib number, looked like the Russian suit. It is the Russians, and if that is Shapalova, then she's looking very, very tired indeed.
I think it was Sidko, actually.
I think you're right. I don't think I'd ever find myself criticising Shapalova's technique. Of course, she's the Olympic sprint champion from Salt Lake City in 2002. Away they go with 2 laps to go. Italy leading with Germany up there in the top 2 as well. Avi Sackenbacher on course up against Sabina Valbusa. And these two have got themselves a long way clear, Mike. Are we looking at the gold and silver medalist?
I think it's a good decision. With 10 minutes of racing, they've decided, right, we've got an opportunity here. And I think a lot of their gain is from the very, very fast pit stop, not pit stops, but the changeovers. And that's where they're getting the initiative here. It's so rare that we have a changeover with such speed coming in. Normally it's on a flat or a gently uphill section.
So the downhill crucial, and in your view, the technique for exchange, very important, and certainly didn't see anyone practicing it before the race started, and that's something that needs to be borne in mind. So Sweden have done some good work to get back in touch, and trying to go through now is Britta Norgren. That may be a little bit too early to make her burst. She's certainly going to pay for that at the top of the hill, because it's a long, long climb. Sackenbacher has waited, but now she decides that it's time to up the pace, and it's Avi Sackenbacher who leads the way, a medalist also from the Salt Lake City sprint event. Look at this style. It's all power, it's all push and grunt and groan, and Avi Sackenbacher doing just what the German biathletes do.
It's just grafting, working, muscling your way up the hill, but it's working for the German. She really is a fighter. Look at that. Left arm coming so far in front of her face almost, so the energy going way out to the side, but it's working. Yeah,
the balance is starting to go, though. She's starting to hurt. But remember, this is her last lap. She hasn't got to do it again. She's going to hand over to Claudia Kunzel, who will certainly appreciate this sort of a lead. She's got 30 metres at the top of the hill. She could be 50 metres clear by the time she comes into the stadium. So Sackenbacher has more than done her duty on this run. She's earned herself, what's it going to be, 3, 4, 5 seconds. Phenomenal sprinting from Avi Sackenbacher, and Claudia Kunzel looks on in disbelief. She must be a little bit nervous because she knows it is her hers to lose now, rather than anyone else's to win. Another good exchange. Kunzel is underway before Sackenbacher comes into the box, and Germany are 4.8 seconds clear.
Well done, Evie Sackenbacher, to hand over to your teammate. She gave everything to get this initiative, and I think that was an amazingly perfect tactic. This is the last loop, and 5-second lead. Brilliant.
I can't believe Kunzel's going to lose that now. She's miles clear. Sweden in the distance. Italy even further back. Haven't even come under the bridge yet. So Kunzel really has just got to stay clean. Don't push too early on the uphill section. Oh, we've got a faller. So second place is far from decided. That was a dreadful mistake from Sweden.
Luckily, she wasn't carrying too much speed when she went down, but it's decisive. The rest have noted that, and tension now through the Swede. She really is annoyed, angry, and that tightens your technique up.
Anna-Karin Stromstedt, and look at it, it has sapped the energy out of her legs. She is totally shattered. It's not only adrenaline, the pulse rate and the rhythm broken. So Stromstedt, I think, has thrown away Sweden's chance of finishing in the top two, and it is Russia with Julia Chapalova that's moved into runners-up position at the moment. Can Chapalova do anything about this lead of Kunzel? I don't think so, because Kunzel looking majestic as she works her way up the hill for the last time.
What amazed me, Patrick, last time round, and it's important now, looking way at the back there, it's Sarah Renner. Now Chandra Crawford, she just could not stay with the pace at all the last time round, so no chance for Canada now.
So perhaps the season, 2 races too long for the Canadians, but they really have made a name for themselves this season. Kunzel over the top of the hill. She's got this one in the bag, provided she doesn't fall on the last downhill, but I don't think that is going to happen. Most of the Germans have excellent alpine facilities as well, and Kunzel's a keen alpine skier, looks very competent, works her way down. No metal edges, remember, on these skis, but it's a long, long glide into the finish. And Evie Sackenbacher, I think, can take the credit for this victory. She did such good work on that penultimate loop that Claudia Kunzel had a stroll to the finish. Victory for Germany in the team sprint event, and maybe that will set them up for a good run on in tomorrow's pursuits.
Well, that was a brave last time round for Evie Sackenbacher. A very brave move, and it set the whole race up. But from silver,
looks like Finland have come through to take second place, 14.4 behind. Russia in 4th position. Finland 1 in 5th position. Italy down in 6th. Very, very tight finish. The Canadians totally exhausted. Russia not really, Russia's second team not really putting up much of a fight. Elena Sidko unable to stay with the pace. But just waiting for confirmation of 2nd and 3rd. We know all about the winners. Here is Sarah Renner of Canada, 42 seconds down.
Well, this the Olympic champion, the young Chandra Crawford. I don't think this course suited her. Chandra is good on flats and gentle climbs, but today really did paint the picture that when it's a long, steep climb, 3/4 of this course is hard work. Did not suit Chandra Crawford.
And that would indicate that she doesn't quite have the cardiovascular qualities of the top performers. She has the strength to out-sprint them over, 15-20 seconds, but not when the climb goes on for a minute and a half.
Nope, she'll mature into being able to hold that, I think, in the future, because she still is a very young athlete and Olympic champion.
Top seeds for the day, coming in way down the order. Lena Andersson and Emily Östig out-skied by Sweden's second team, made up of Britta Norgren and Anna-Karin Stromstedt. Stromstedt, remember, having a fall. Still waiting for confirmation of their finish position, Mike. Now, here we have it. Germany 1 get it, Finland 2 in 2nd, and Sweden 2, despite that fall on the last loop, still managed to take 3rd position and get themselves on the podium. So that was a good recovery from Stromstedt, because she looked shattered after that fall. So you've got a couple of minutes to recover after that sprint, full of drama, full of good tactics as well, and credit to the Germans where credit is due. That was very intelligent skiing. Evie Sackenbacher it was who made the break with just over a kilometre to go, and I wonder whether we're going to see the same in the men's event, Mike. Looking forward to that one. The men's final coming up in just a few minutes time. and the men have had precious little time to recover, especially those who went in that second semi-final.
They really haven't had much time at all. They are used to this. This format has been around now on the World Cup Tour, well, for what, 4 or 5 years. But timings, and this especially at towards the end of March, when you've put so many months of racing in, yet your recovery takes a little bit longer. But it's the same for most of these men. And there we are, Team 5. Toby Angerer, the best skier in the world throughout the whole season, psyching up. There's the wax technicians just doing the final preparation, corking in the fluorocarbons. There we are, just rubbing it in. It's a quick fix, and they will be doing that possibly in between each of the legs as well. You must have fast skis for this, or you don't want to be disadvantaged in any way whatsoever. Well, it's going to be a major scrap, the initial loop. In fact, throughout this whole race, it's going to be a tight pack, I believe. And well, there's the man who's on form, Toby Fredriksson.
Would you have put him on the second loop, or?
I think I would have. I mean, clearly they had their discussions last night, the Swedish team, but Toby for me is the ultimate tight pack racer. He can get through, he finds a way through, unless they've decided to do that, take that initiative like the Germans did with Sackenbacher's second last loop.
On the penultimate loop, I was thinking exactly the same. Peter Larsen, for me, great sprinter, very, very good turn of pace, which may come into handy on the last climb at the very top. But for me, he likes a flatter course. He likes Dusseldorf. He's got 3 World Cup wins, and they've all come on the flattest course on the World Cup circuit. So I'm not sure that he can cope with that hill. He'll certainly get himself up the hill, we've seen that already, but I don't think he's going to have much of his sprint left when he comes to the top of that 1.25-minute climbing. But I may be wrong, we'll wait and see. And Mike, you might be right. It might be Toby Fredriksson who's been given the task of sprinting with over a lap to go. And certainly, having watched Germany in the women's final, I think every team will be wise to that decision now, and it's not going to be it's not going to surprise anyone.
Well, you've got to put your team tactics, everything. You've got to try and get a gain over the other teams.
What about Kolstad and Roning, the Norwegian team? Certainly the highest ranked number 1 here. Didn't really play a major role in the semi-final, just made sure they got through. Team 11 we've discussed, which is Sweden. We've got Russia in there as well. Team 12. Team number 2, the Italians, with Frasnelli and Zorzi. Further down the order, Angerer for Germany. So, under starters orders, the men's final, the top 10 teams from the semi-finals all qualified. Just watch the first corner. It could be chaos. Away they go. The top 4 teams in the first rank. Norway, the favourites, in the second rank. And Johan Kolstad working hard to get himself into the top 4. He's drawn himself alongside Toby Fredriksson now. But it's the Italians who get away fastest. Frasnelli, who's teamed up with Christian Zorzi. And Zorzi is on form, and he's angry. He's angry after his failure to win the Olympic title. And he's angry with one Toby Fredriksson as well. So it's a good thing that they're not racing on the first leg. He accused Fredriksson of planting a tungsten tip in his chest coming into the final.
And it really did affect the outcome of that race. The final Olympic Games, the men's sprint, 4 men going to the 250 meters to go, and it was an accident. Toby Fredriksson's ski pole got Zorzi right in the chest. It really did break him, stopped him, and it must have hurt and put him out of his rhythm.
Slightly surprised to see a slow pace going into that first corner, but they've spread themselves out, and those at the back are already 20 meters adrift. Vincent Vito, not really too fussed, Mike, just took it easy out of the start, which, if you can do it and stay with the leaders, is a sensible way, because that first 20-30 meters you can sprint for maybe 7-8 seconds. Beyond that, you're making a mistake.
I think you're right. It takes a lot of energy. You burn a lot of fuel in doing that. And I think in the semi-finals earlier, I think the Norwegian duo, Roning and Kolstad, they were the most efficient. They never really put in any big turns, any big dramatic moves of speed. and it may well change this time.
There was actually some research done in Australia where they found that if you're running an event of less than 3 minutes, to put in a burst off the start line was beneficial as long as you didn't go beyond 10 seconds, 9-10 seconds. The initial part was good because it upped the amount of oxygen that you took into your body. It just woke everything up. And they found that that actually produced a quicker time than starting steadily and building. May not be the case for everyone, but that was the result of the research. Don't believe everything you read.
Well, very interesting. But at the moment, the pace is comfortable and shouldn't test any of these. When you look at it on paper, all these 10 teams, they're so equally matched. So it's down to tactics, race line, hitting the button at the right time, or turning the pace up at the right time, and being efficient on the cornering.
Okay, watch the exchanges. Let's see if anyone can gain themselves 5 or 6 meters just by getting the tactics right. Here's Christian Zorzi, who's going to have clean snow in front of him as the leading team. The Italian's going away. Not exactly an aggressive start by Zorzi, but he's not lost any ground. The Norwegian's on the inside lane at the moment, alongside the Swedes. So Italy, Sweden, Norway, the top 3 teams as they come out after the first loop. At the back of the group, Mike, team number 10, Norway 2, with Jon Christian Dahl and Trond Iversen. They're going to have to start making ground shortly, just in case Christian Zorzi decides to turn it up and make everyone hurt.
And he does have that ability, and he likes playing around with the pace as well.
Just climbs that hill with consummate ease. It's much steeper than it looks on your screens. It really is a staircase of a climb before they get into the long ascent up to the high point of the course.
Just thinking, Patrick, 34 years ago the Olympics came to town here, to Sapporo. And it's a pity, really. Of course, the club here is very good, but I think it's a pity that the World Cup Tour has very rarely since then come back, and it's great to see that the World Cup back now. And it gives the Japanese team a chance to look at the best and look at what they need to do to get their athletes up to the very top.
Team number 5, just a quick glimpse of the Germans then. Axel Teichmann, very distinct style. There he is, missed out on the Olympic racing, had a boil on his thigh, which they allowed to go septic, and then he was stopped from racing because there was a chance or a danger that he would give himself septicemia. So I think they made the right decision in the long run. But what I can't believe is how they let it get to that stage. An ingrowing hair follicle, they let it go septic. Here's a man who is massaged every day, he's looked after every day, they have doctors checking the blood, the urine, it goes on and on and on, and they let something like that occur.
It's hard to believe. It just, I can't understand it. You've got the Olympic Games, one of your best athletes in the world, and as you say, that must have been noticed beforehand, and you'd think treatment earlier on would have given him a chance to win the medals that he could well have won at the Olympics.
Okay, second exchange coming up, 4 laps still to go. The Norwegian Johan Kolstad signalling to Elder Roning exactly where he is, and Norway get away cleanly, no problems there. Roning just looking over his shoulder, just checking on the presence of Lois Frasnelli, who's gone back into the lead. I don't think Roning wanted to lead this one, and sensibly he's gone into second place. Toby Fredriksson behind him, Toby Angerer down in 5th place at the moment, and Vincent Vito having to work very hard once again for the French. Vito wearing bib number 9, and of course in the same suit as Jean-Marc Gaillard, who's in 17 and at the back of the field at the moment. And a team we haven't really mentioned, Team 10, Mike, who we picked up at the very beginning, have moved up into 4th place. That's Norway's second team.
Well, I think they are playing a clever game, both of the Norwegian teams. They're playing, again, it's tactics. They really are moving themselves into that place, that safe place. But I'm just thinking, it's 6 minutes of racing now. We haven't had any falls, and in the women's race after 3:20 we had 3 quite bad falls, but things might change.
I think the pace of this would indicate that all these skiers, except for 9, which is Vincent Vito, are thinking about making a break on their last loop. This is their second of 3. and most of them are just trying to conserve as much energy, because I think they've all decided that the penultimate loop is the place to go, and that's fairly unusual in the world sprints. The Canadians coming to the fore for the first time. Good confidence shown there by Devon Kershaw. His partner George Gray is pretty sharp off the blocks, and so there's still a chance that Canadians could get a top three.
I like his style, I like his focus. He's not the biggest, the tallest of athletes out there, but he's got tempo, he's got drive, and, well, looks like he's got self-belief at the moment.
Not sure I'd go for his suit, though.
Could be better.
What do you reckon?
But I like the maple leafs dotted all over it. That gives it some life.
So Canada leading, Germany in second place with the this year's World Cup winner Toby Agra, Frasnelli of Italy in third, Toby Fredriksson of Sweden in fourth, and then Norway in 5 and 7 at the moment. The French have started to move up. Vincent Vito initiated that change of pace, but then let everyone else run with it, and he just tucked back into the group again. So it's Canada who are going to get away in the leading three. The Germans looking for a clean exchange between that exchange, but it's still Canada leading. Germany in second, Russia, Norway, Estonia in 8, 9 and 10 at the moment, and the Norwegians really haven't featured so far. So Mike, tactics here. Would it be wise to make a break 3 laps out?
We're going to see a massive change of pace soon, I think. 3 laps out is dangerous, because any move that's created can be counter-moved or counter-reacted upon.
This is not the place to try and make a break, though. You want to get over that little step with as least energy as possible, and then this is where you can make ground by moving aside. There's plenty of room to move up on the outside. The track's 6 meters wide, which basically means that if someone's in the middle, you can get alongside them. But to get past George Gray, you're going to have to make a noise and ask him to move over, because the faster skier has priority. And you saw Teichmann there on the right-hand side, leading that right-hand column. Just a quick word to George Gray, and Gray obligingly moves over to his left, and there is now room, plenty of room, for 2 columns.
Larson is playing a very so relaxed, isn't he? He watches everyone all the time. So there he is, team 11.
I don't know if I'm convinced by Larson. I just thought he looked a little bit tired. It's a nice smooth technique, but I just thought it looked as though he was doing a lot of work with the upper body and not getting quite as much out of the legs as we saw. George Gray looks very good to me for Canada, but I don't think he's quite got the class to survive this one. Anyone else, Mike, who either looks good or bad, or we should write off?
Number 5 there, it's the upright position, but he's so strong. Axel Teichmann for Germany. And he hasn't looked to me as if he's put any major effort in yet. So he's holding this pace with ease, I reckon, and danger to come from the German team.
Well, no big moves on this leg. Oh, we nearly had a faller. It was the Canadians who wobbled, but they stay on their feet and keep themselves in the running. They keep themselves in the top 3 as well. 2 laps to go. Italy, Sweden, Canada, Germany, the top 4. France, Estonia, Norway. Russia down in 8th at the moment, 3.3 seconds behind. And surely this is where the pace is going to change. Frasnelli it is, leading the way out on the penultimate lap. We've got 2.3 kilometers to go. And both Norwegian teams struggling to stay with the pace, and that's France at the back. Vincent Vito not making any impression at the moment.
Just looking at the Italian team, they haven't done anything wrong at all, and when you look at their stats or their form at the Olympics, Frasnelli was 6th, and Zorzi, of course, we mentioned earlier, was 4th. They're a good combination.
Whoa, we've got a wobble again. The French, again this time, are struggling, but it's France's second team with Jean-Marc Gaillard, who struggled there. Emmanuel Journier is resting, trying to get the skis wiped down, brushed off, ready for his last lap. Now Sweden start to up the pace, and it's Toby Fredriksson doing the work once again. Number 11, following him carefully is Team 13 with Pritnarusk of Estonia, and the Norwegians for the first time, Mike, coming up into the top 4, and they're wearing the red bib tucked in behind Italy.
Putting a lot of work in there, Johan Kjolstad.
Oh, and he's going ahead, and he's gone alongside Frasnelli. I'm not sure Frasnelli is going to be a match for someone of Kolstad's qualities, but Kolstad started his run from a long, long way out, and he may well tie up before he gets to the top of the hill, trying to get clear and give his partner Elder Roning a bit of a cushion, but he stumbles and loses 4 or 5 metres, has to switch into the skate one technique for the final part of the hill. Frasnelli still going well on the inside line. He's got the shortest line, but Roning coming through, Kolstad I should say, coming through now for Norway. He's got himself to the front, Mike, but he really hasn't broken clear.
Unbelievable. He put all his cards on the table. He moved up from 7th. He's just having a look behind him, and he nearly fell. How he came back from that, I'll never know. And then he put another turn of speed in. As you say, he changed gear, went into the fastest technique, skate one, paddling, and he attacked again.
Well, a very different scenario to the women's final just 5 minutes ago. At this stage, Avi Sackenbacher had a 30-metre lead. There's nothing between the leading teams. 1.7 seconds separating the top 5. France, Estonia in 7th and 8th at the moment. France 1 down in 9, 2.4 seconds. This one could go any way. Norway, Sweden, Germany and Italy, the 4 best teams in the world. 1, 2, 3 and 4 on the last lap of this men's team relay. And it is so good to see that this actually means as much as an individual race.
Well, what is going to happen? Well, whatever is going to happen, we know it's going to be so fast up the hill. I thought there might have been a gap here leading into this bend, and that would have been an advantage, but 10 teams all within 1.8 seconds. Unbelievable.
Christian Zorzi makes an early move, and we've got another faller, and I think that puts number 12, the Russian team with Vasily Rochev, puts them out of it. They're not going to recover from a fall at the late stage. If you are going to fall on the start line, and no later than that. A bad mistake by Rochev, the world sprint champion. Now Italy, Norway, Sweden, 1, 2 and 3. Everyone watching Zorzi. They know how dangerous he is, but Norway are going to have to make a move. Has Roning got the legs on Christian Zorzi, who so often gets involved in sprint finishes in relay events, and that is why he's one of the favourites, and he ups the tempo and he increases his lead over Roning by just a couple of centimetres. Mike, what's the scenario?
Well, the scenario, Larsen has been checking all around him, the same with Teichmann. They're both looking at a way through, and it's Larsen. He's been looking all around, and there he goes. He's making a break. This could be decisive.
400 metres to go, and Larsen has got clear. Italy are trying to match it. Christian Zorzi digging deep. Now we see a charge from Eldar Roning, who waited and waited and waited. Very patient skiing from Roning. He's got the highest tempo, and he's gaining on Larsen of Sweden, who may well have gone a little bit too early, but it's still Larsen with the lead. Over the top of the hill, that's the key part of this course. Roning is dying, Zorzi is dying, and Peter Larsen keeps on pushing, and the Swede is clear, 10, 12 metres. Surely it's going to be a Swedish victory.
He needs to hold his balance, Patrick. He's got no feeling in his legs. He's nearly falling. Larsen, he's just taken so much out. Yes, he's made it.
Down into the home straight. Oh, 50 metres to go. Larsen is down. Larsen goes down. He had the victory in the bag, and that has handed it to Christian Zorzi. Norway with Roning in second place, trying to make it up on the outside, but surely Zorzi can hold on here. It's going to be tight. Photo finish for the line, and I think the Italians have got it. 14:46, the best sprint finish of the season, saved to the penultimate day. Poor old Sweden.
How could he fall? He got past the most difficult 2 parts of that corner, and he was still looking back. If you take your mind off what you're doing, it brings in any other situation. In this soft snow, what a pity for Sweden.
Well, Zorzi and Roning can't decide between themselves, but the camera initially deciding that it was a victory for Zorzi. Roning didn't have a huge amount of room on that right-hand side, but the story of the race, Sweden's brilliant finish with their demise with only 40 metres to go. I think, Mike, he thought the same as you. I think he thought he'd made it. He was round the corner, and then a little bit of soft snow just took his left ski from under him, and he went down like a sack of potatoes.
Well, the pace that he hit the hill on, as I said, over to the top, you've got nothing left. Your legs, you just have to be a little bit careful in your race line coming into that home straight, and he must have thought he was clear. The dangers were over, and all he had to do was glide to the finish, but it didn't work.
Well, Frasnelli and Zorzi, we think, are the winners, but we'll wait for confirmation. I think Roning just left it 5 metres. I think, to be honest, Mike, that finish needed to be another 20, 30 30 metres to give someone in second place coming down the hill a chance to make up the ground. Just a little too short, that sprint finish, but it was way too long for Sweden, who tumbled with 40 metres left to race. That is so sad for Toby Fredriksson, who did the first leg, and Peter Larsen, who was the man who fell.
Well, the prize money was so nearly in their pockets. It was just so close. I've never seen a situation like that before in the team races.
Yeah, €4.50 each, which would have gone down nicely. A little bit of shopping in Tokyo before they head back to Europe and a well-deserved summer's rest. But it's not going to be the way. The money is going to Italy and Norway, the top two teams here. Such drama. Let's hope that tomorrow's pursuits are every bit as good as that. Germany winning the women's comfortably. Great skiing by Sackenbacher and Kunzel. The men's race, as we thought it might be, very tight indeed. And once again, all the teams have to think so carefully about their tactics.
It's really down to tactics, race line tactics, and just thinking up, these men and women tomorrow will do yet another race. 6 sprints today up that steep hill, and they've got to put that behind them, get a massage, get a lot of food and drink in, and come back out tomorrow to perform.
But many of these men won't enter the pursuit race. They're not involved in the challenge for the overall World Cup. But we should just give you the situation in the men's overall World Cup. But we're going to get the confirmation. There it is. Italy have been given the win. The jury's decision. Loris Frasnelli, who took the first leg in a sprint finish. Christian Zorzi, just too good for Eldar Roning of Norway. So Italy get the win and the money and the Nations Cup points. No World Cup points on offer. What a character. Zorzi, Zorro, as he's known.
He is a real character, and well, he's telling everyone that he enjoyed that.
Not surprised. 40 and 46 the winning time. Norway given the same time, but put down in second place, and Germany in third. And Sweden won DNF, having led into the last 50 metres. Poor old Peter Larsen, he's not going to live that one down. I think he's buying the drinks for Toby Fredriksson tonight. Well, great stuff, and enjoyed the racing. We're going to be back tomorrow with more, of course, a pursuit for both the men and the women. Well, that wraps up our coverage from Sapporo for today. Not quite such an early start tomorrow, you'll be glad to hear. Mike, your last impressions?
Yeah, disappointing there for Sweden. They put it together so well, they made all the right decisions, but one error at the end cost them gold medal.
Okay, well, that wraps it up. Germany winning the women's team sprint event, and Italy with Zorzi sprinting home to beat the Norwegians in the men's event. That's all from Japan for today. We'll see you again tomorrow. Goodbye for now.